Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Newcastle United Fans Show.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio with Shaun Wade, Aaron Stokes from the Daily Star Sport, and Matt Ketchell from BBC Match of the Day magazine, aka Ketch. And if we thought last week's show was a good one, it was positive, we all had a laugh, well, I can't wait for this week's one because Newcastle beat Man United 1-0 on the weekend. The season hasn't been one to remember, but it doesn't get much better than that because it was a brilliant victory, a clean sheet, the 3 points, we can't ask for much more, and the introduction of the Longstaff brothers for the first time this season. And I think we may be saying that for many more weeks to come, but a packed show as always. We'll be reviewing that game. And I'm delighted to say, coming up, you won't want to miss, we will be talking to George Colkin from The Athletic all about the club and the recent article he posted. And someone else has been making a little bit of noise about Newcastle this week, our dear friend Jeremy Corbyn, about that fans should get involved and have shares in the club. And, well, we've got a few opinions on that and we'll be making them known a little bit later in the show. But I'm delighted to speak to you all and have you all in the studio. Let's look at that great result on the weekend. Steve Bruce has done it again. What a legend, Shaun Wade.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Yeah, no, great.
I meant you, not Steve.
All right. Like that, is it? The thing is that excellent result, a much-needed result, and it was nice to see the team playing. And obviously, the introduction of Matty Longstaff coming into the first team squad in a Premier game was absolutely outstanding. His goal was something else, and it was just very reminiscent to the goal that he played in the friendlies pre-season against St Etienne. So I just thought it was a very similar position. The difference was St Etienne, it sort of more or less went up towards the top corner, and this one was across the floor. Albeit it was a slippy pitch because it was raining, to say the least, up there. But fantastic score debut in the Gallagher. I think there's only a few players that's done it, isn't there? Really, so it's he's up there with them. Definitely.
He certainly is. You mentioned a pre-season and we saw the interview afterwards, the brothers. It was such a great interview. I think everyone, not just fans of Newcastle, enjoyed that interview. You could tell the delight across their faces. You know, I can't even begin to imagine playing with your brother, alongside your brother, for the team you support, the area you live, beating Man United. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, but it doesn't get much better for them. That obviously is one of their dreams they must have spoke about as kids. But we heard about how well he played in pre-season, and Shaun said it then. He said, you know, I'm surprised he hasn't started before. Why has it taken until now that he has started, and why was it the Man United game, you reckon, Aaron?
I mean, Bruce has been sort of praised this week, and obviously rightly for the tactics, and he's also been praised for the gamble. Now, I think it was probably because Hayden wasn't in, you know, obviously the suspension the week before. Shelvey, I think, picked up a knock, so it was really only Shaun, Key and Matty Longstaff. But I mean, Bruce could have easily played it safe, you know, Manchester United at home, big game, they need a win. You know, Key is an experienced player, you know, he's played for Swansea, he's played for Sunderland in the Premier League, so, you know, Bruce could have played it safe, played him alongside Shaun, but someone just felt right a bit, do you know what I mean? You're probably not going to get another chance to play Shaun alongside Matty, you know, in a game like that. I mean, you probably will now because they've both impressed, but for him to do that in front of St James's, it gave everyone a lift. And I mean, the performance of both of the Longstaffs was brilliant. I mean, Matty was obviously fantastic on his debut, but Shaun, who has been out of sorts, you know, this season compared to last, I thought he was brilliant as well. So, I mean, yeah, it was just, I mean, you couldn't write it really. It was just the perfect day for both of them. You
couldn't write, and especially after the 5-0 defeat to Leicester last week. I know you two weren't here last week, but we were talking about the form has been so indifferent this year, you know. It's not even one step forward, two steps back. We're seeing a decent performance, then a terrible one. I don't want to say coming from the left side or from the blue, because we're semi-expecting it, but we never know what we're going to get with Newcastle. Ketch, what did you make of the weekend? And Steve Bruce is saying that this could be the turning point, the tide in the season, it's changing. Do you believe that could be the catalyst for Newcastle to kick on now?
Well, I'd love to. I hope so. Definitely hope so. I think I've said from the start, I think we're going to see a massively inconsistent Newcastle, and that's what we've seen. It's very reminiscent of McLaren. You would go from disaster to winning away at Spurs, and it was just it's all a bit weird. I mean, the through the week the quote from Bruce was that stuck with everyone was, we're going to try and rein in our front foot approach. And ironically, I thought we started on the front foot against Man United, and we took the game to them and kind of stopped them in their tracks. And Matty Longstaff was really at the pivot of that. He is the only midfielder really who's got a bit of legs. He was like a little pinball in there. If you look at all our other midfielders, there's no one really who can press. So it was a really brave decision of Bruce to put a 19-year-old kid in there live on Sky, home debut, alongside his brother. I thought it was a really brave decision. And also, I would like to give Bruce credit for putting Kieran Clark in defence. Another massive decision. He dropped Paul Dummett, who's been one of our most reliable players this season. I thought very brave decision. When I saw the team, I thought, wow, if we lose this game by 2 or 3 goals, Bruce is going to be under even more pressure because of these decisions. So that's the positive thing I take from it. Bruce isn't afraid to make big decisions, and it paid off because everyone's talking about Matty Longstaff, but Kieran Clark, very good all-round defender, and he just kind of freed up Share, and he gave us a bit more of an attacking impetus, which I think was important playing at home against what turned out to be a poor Man United.
I think it's a good point you raised, because when you do get a result like this, there's obviously one dominating storyline. It is Matty and Shaun, but there were so many other little factors we're not really talking about. Another one you just mentioned there, and I feel like he's not getting enough credit. I thought Share on the day was absolutely fantastic. What did you make of him, Aaron?
Share for me is just, I mean, the fact we got him for £3 million is just daylight robbery. I mean, that
incredible.
Is such a bargain. I mean, last season, when we were in the Championship, the Cells sort of had the standout season, and Dummett's been consistent. But Shaw this season already, I mean, I think everyone was panicking a bit when he went down injured a couple of games ago. I can't remember who it was against, Norwich maybe or Watford, and everyone was panicking, thinking if he goes, that defence completely changes. But he was fantastic, and everyone's talking about Matty's goal, but Shaw's goal line clearance sort of before that, when he stopped Rashford scoring, is just as important. And the one bad thing is that the better he plays and the longer he keeps his form up, the more I'm worried that he's going to go to a bigger club, because Manchester United probably need another centre defender. City are short at the back. Arsenal could do with it. If one of them comes in with big money, then he is probably going to go, which is a shame, because he could become a massive sort of hero on Tyneside if he keeps this up.
Massively. I mean, we see Maguire, he did miss that chance. He probably should have scored it, if we're being fair. But Shaun, I know we're never going to get to the bottom of it. We can only try to provide answers. But why are we seeing a Newcastle that Ketch said that is inconsistent? How can we come on this show and say, your players don't know their roles, they don't know the tactics, they're not disciplined, and then we get a performance against Man United. We know Man United aren't great at this moment in time. It still takes a lot to beat them. They're still going to be there or thereabouts. And as Ketch said, Newcastle did start on the front foot. It felt like they was trying to execute that game plan. Why are we getting just 2 different versions here? It feels like 2 different extremes.
It's bizarre, and we could sit here and ponder it and talk about it all night and still not have the answers. I can't, the inconsistency must be driving everyone crazy. I know it's driving me crazy, and it's like kind of stop-start situation, and then the international break possibly again hasn't came around at the best time for it. But it is what it is. I don't know. What I am going to focus in on is the fact that, Newcastle's got 2 brothers there playing really well together. Their awareness on the pitch is fantastic. I mean, the last time that Newcastle has produced 2 brothers was back in the 60s, the 50s and 60s. No, it was the Charlton brothers. And the only time they actually played together was in an England strip. And when that happened, we lifted the World Cup in 66, So really speaking, it's kind of like we've got this new energy that's surrounded around their positivity on the pitch. So if Bruce can build on that week in, week out, then it's only going to be a good thing. It creates more competition within the squad, which I think is massively needed. It's got to pick the players up, because let's face it, we had a hell of a kicking, from Leicester and stuff. So that's got to take its toll. But it was the perfect response. Man U weren't particularly. They didn't play well at all. Let's face it. They're really underachieving. For when you look at their players on paper, they have got a really good squad. I'm actually hopeful that Man U might really struggle this season, and we could see them in a relegation fight out. So it would be nice to see them relegated, in fact, for a change.
It would be fantastic. You mentioned though that the Longstaffs, you know, you said how good it was there. You know, they're so up for it. We always know when you do play a youngster, they're hungry, they want to shine. You know, it's their welcome to the real world, welcome to the Premier League. It's their big moment, the first time on a big stage like that. But I don't want to say that Newcastle can go on this great run and it's going to completely change their fortunes, Ketch. But it can be something like this, can't it? You know, because we need the fans, you know, something to root for, to rally around, because we don't want to root for, you know, a Mike Ashley run Newcastle. We're talking about a boycott, but these brothers and these two players is something that we can really get behind and look towards in the next few games, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely, and something we've been starved as Newcastle fans is obviously A, trophies, but B, emotion, and that's one of the things that I felt on Sunday. I felt emotional watching a 19-year-old Geordie score a fantastic goal at the Gallagher end and celebrate with his brother. And the interview afterwards was amazing. They're stood there, they're knackered, their eyes are wide, they can't believe this is happening to them. It was just pure joy. Just simple football lads from North Shields who've been given a chance, taking it with both hands, and it made me feel emotional. It made me feel excited about what we could do with these two brothers. And even Graham Souness got a bit emotional in the studio afterwards. He was saying that's what football's all about. Gary Neville was tweeting very positively about them, even though he'd just seen his club, you know, really lurch to a one of their all-time lows. But he took the time to say how much he loved that interview. It was just pure passion, pure football, and two lads, brothers from Shields, and it makes you excited about the future, and we haven't had that at all really in the last 12 years.
Yeah, it was exciting, definitely. I think you don't have to be a Newcastle fan to appreciate the interview after the game, because they were just buzzing with a win. They were trying to catch their breath. Almost what to say, did he? He was struggling to get his words out, but it was such a joy. And obviously Carroll, he come on, he made an appearance. How much can we expect from here, Aaron? You know, can he start to make an impact for the team?
Well, I mean, obviously a couple of weeks ago, an article came out, I think it was a Telegraph, saying that, you know, he wasn't going to be able to fit to start until next year. And I was quite surprised when I saw him coming on with 40 minutes to go, because he's only sort of had 10-minute spells the last two games. So, I mean, if he changed the game when he came on, you know, he gives us something different. You know, Joelinton's very good at holding the ball up, but, you know, Carroll wins everything in the air. He links the play up very well. So it was a positive sign to see him get 40 minutes. He's clearly doing all right. I don't want to jinx it. Touch wood, he stays fit. But
say that on that was actually, I thought, a really good choice by Bruce to bring him on when he did, because the team needed that something, didn't they? You know, so in that presence up front, because Joelinton kind of was flagging, wasn't he, at that stage, and he wasn't getting no delivery. So
it felt early, didn't it? When you were like, but I think it was because he picked up a back injury, Joelinton, on the Friday, so I think that was why he came off early. But it did feel early. It
felt like an early change, but it felt like the right change to me. I was sitting there, I was watching it at the time, and I thought, you know what, now is the time to make that change. And I wasn't expecting it to be Andy Carroll, I must admit, but that change was made by Bruce, and I thought it was brave to do that when he did. You know, we see it so many times, don't we, where a sub's made sort of maybe it's 80 minutes or 75 minutes or something, you know, so to do it at that 50-minute mark was spot on, and it worked. And I don't know, maybe that give everyone a little bit of a lift within the stadium, it seemed, as well, because then we had sort of like 3 Geordies on the pitch as well. So
and a Geordie in the dugout.
Yeah.
But I liked Andy Carroll. He was heading balls away at the end. He was defending at the end. He's pretty good centre half. Maybe we can mould him into a replacement for Cher when he leaves.
Yeah, when Shaun goes to Man City.
Don't say that. I was just going to bring George on. Don't make it sour, Aaron, before we go away. Well, we are talking to George Corkin next. Very excited to have him on. We were just looking at the game with Man United. We're going to be talking about the brothers a little bit more and what is happening with Almiron.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
I told Melania that she draws her eyebrows on far too high. She looked so surprised.
Follow @Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it,
sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired school bursar from Chingford. I thought I was paying too much for my energy and went onto spokesmansaid.com and found that I could reduce my costs overall by £568 per annum, and I'm very grateful for that help.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work that way. Even a quick look at the message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
This is Love Sport.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins, and I'm joined in the studio with Shaun Wade, Aaron Stokes from the Daily Star Sport, and Matt Ketchell from BBC Match of the Day magazine, aka Ketch. And I'm delighted to say now we've got a very special guest on the line. But as always, you can join the show as well. It's your team, your voice. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. But as we alluded to earlier, we have a very special guest joining us now. He's George Corkin from The Athletic. George, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. It's a real pleasure to have you on the Newcastle Fan Show, and we know you're extremely busy. I'll kick it off, George. I read your latest article in The Athletic, and there's a few quotes that stand out. One of them, Newcastle, they're settling for Steve Bruce rather than striving. Does this change it a little bit? You know, results like this, can the fans would they start to be won over? Is there a case for that, George?
Well, it doesn't hurt, does it? It doesn't hurt. I mean, I think, you know, there's a smaller picture and a bigger picture, and in the smaller picture, it was a great result, and it was a decent performance, and you know, we all feel very happy about seeing Matthew Longstaff score the goal and beating Man United. Even a pretty terrible Man United doesn't come around very often, so we should enjoy that. The bigger picture, of course, is kind of quite different, and sort of within that context, it's sort of difficult to feel differently about the football club, because we're talking about the general direction of travel, we're talking about the ownership of Mike Ashley, we're talking about the club that Rafa Benitez left in the summer. All those, we're talking about, you know, the smaller crowds that we've seen up until the weekend, albeit that was, you know, against Manchester United. So that is the bigger picture. I don't think that is particularly Steve Bruce's fault, that context, but he's kind of the symptom of what's going on around the place at the moment. And you're not going to convince people that he's Rafa Benitez Mark II, are you? So, you know, it was a good occasion. It was a great occasion to be at, but you know, there are so many kind of long-term issues at the club that I'm not sure that does much really, other than sort of change the mood music around the place.
George, it's Ketch here. I just wanted to ask you about Steve Bruce. As you're someone who's attends his press conferences both before the match and after the match. What do you make of his performance in the media? How have you found him? And as someone who's probably marked a lot of footballers out of 10, would you be prepared to give him a mark out of 10 for how he's handled the media so far?
So, I mean, that's an interesting question. I've known him for a long time. I've known him since he was at Sunderland, and I've kind of got to know him quite well, and I would count myself as sort of friendly with him. I'm saying that kind of up front because there is this sort of narrative around him that he's got lots of media mates and that he's very chummy and pally and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I do know him and I do like him as a human being. I think he's a sort of decent fella. You'll get a lot of people saying that, and I think they'll say that because it's true. That said, that doesn't make him a good manager, and it doesn't make him the right manager for Newcastle, and it doesn't make him the right manager to necessarily take Newcastle forward. The question is, could anybody? And so that's one side of it. In terms of the media thing, I mean, he's very helpful. He always wants to answer questions. He'll give information, and he knows. I don't want to talk about the relationship kind of thing as a game, but he knows the way that the game works. That journalists are looking for, words to fill spaces, and he's very good at sort of helping with that. Now at Newcastle, I'm not sure that's actually helped him, because he is following probably the most kind of precise, specific manager of his generation in terms of detail, who would only say stuff in press conferences that he wanted to say. He had a message and he would get it across, and he would be very efficient at kind of blocking everything else out. Steve Bruce doesn't do that, and he talks a lot, and he probably talks too much, and some of it can be contradictory. I mean, I wrote a piece kind of a couple of weeks earlier about after the Brighton game, which was sort of headlined "Newcastle isn't working," and I started that with two quotes from Bruce on the consecutive days. One from the Evening Chronicle, when he said, "We're 5 games in and this already feels like a cup final," and then the next day at his press conference he said, "It's way too early to be talking about cup finals." And that's sort of a bit what he's like, and the contrast with Benitez is quite marked there, and we're now back in that sort of dynamic where everything that the manager says is pulled apart and examined and analysed, very similar to how it was under Steve McLaren, Carver, Pardew, that kind of thing. Why is that different to what happened? Newcastle is a club that only really has one talking head, and that's the manager. Players sometimes, but people above that don't talk or do it very rarely. So what the manager says is heightened. When that manager is trusted, like Rafa was, that's fine. But when it's Steve Bruce, who isn't trusted, everything gets picked apart and overanalyzed. So, I don't know. In terms of his performance, thankfully, I now work for a publication that doesn't have to mark players out of 10 anymore. So I tell you what, I'm going to completely ignore that.
Oh, fair enough.
Hi George, it's Shaun here. I first of all just want to congratulate you on your new position at The Athletic.
Thank you very much.
Thought very good. I did tweet a congratulations, but you never give us a like or anything. But I'm not going to hold that against you.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
George, I'll be honest, I don't blame you.
I think the last time I seen you, I was pretty drunk trying to cuddle you, to tell the truth. So
Well, maybe I'm just avoiding you then.
That's what I thought, to tell the truth.
George, to be honest, we're all doing it, so you're in good company.
Not too bad. Just with your new job and stuff, do you feel like you've got a lot more sort of freedom to report on what's going on and less ties and stuff?
It's a different. I mean, I think I'm still trying to get to grips with it, and I think we probably all are a little bit. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that sort of we're taking away some of the sort of restraints of the jobs, whether that's time or deadlines or that kind of feeling that you have to be at press conferences and then report the same things that other people are doing. Same with match reports. You talked about the bit that I did on Steve Bruce. That was effectively written around the match, but it took me 3 days to do. It took me 3 days to do it, and talking to other people, talking to Bruce himself, and things like that. It feels like there's a lot less filling holes in pages and kind of much more doing things because I've got the time and space to kind of give them room to breathe and things like that. I'm not, Chris Waff, who's joined from the Chronicle and Journal, he's kind of doing the day-to-day kind of Newcastle beat stuff, as it's referred to, and is doing brilliant. He's doing some really interesting, different, quirky and engaging stuff, and I'm kind of able to look around the region and to do other things as well. But obviously Newcastle are the kind of the big drivers. So we're still trying to work out between us what it is we want to do and how we're going to do it and how it will work with the club. But the kind of the lovely thing is we've got scope to try and tell stories in a different way. And part of the appeal to me was, although it's very important to reflect what's happening with the ownership, reflect what's happening with managers and things like that. It does sometimes feel that, the Newcastle story has just been dominated by Rafa, Ashley, Al Bruce, but it's like a couple of people. It's takeover, it's contract, and that's almost the only thing that you're allowed to talk about, or that's the only thing you would get space to talk about in papers unless you have an interview. And I think part of what I wanted to do was almost remind myself that around the club there are so many interesting people and interesting stories and good people, and it's not necessarily, that's fans. It's also people who work at the club, in different sort of capacities. And I think Chris and I would like to tell their stories as well. So,
there's certainly scope to do that. There's certainly scope to do that with things like the food bank and Toonade and stuff, So
yeah, absolutely. I did a big piece with the food bank, and I actually went to the West End food bank and had a day there and stuff like that, as well as volunteered. And I got that into the Times, and so that's great. I'm not trying to say that it's not possible to get those things into papers. It is, but quite often it's a case of timing, getting things into papers, where really I think with the Athletic, it's if the story is good enough and interesting enough, it'll get in. So I'm kind of
good.
I love that.
Excellent stuff.
Hi George, just going back to Bruce quickly. You touched earlier a little bit on Steve McLaren and how there's sort of the same sort of feel at the club since Bruce came in. Do you think the club, if results aren't going the same way, do you think they've learned from McLaren that they maybe left it too late? Do you think Bruce will be afforded the same amount of time as McLaren was, or do you think if it gets to around Christmas and the club are sort of looking like they're going to be pulled in, do you think they'll pull the trigger this time?
Well, you would hope that they've learned from that, but equally, I think they've gone out on a limb to get him. They've had to pay Sheffield Wednesday significant compensation. I mean, whatever it was, £3 million or something. And do they have credibility to use up? I don't know. That's an interesting question. But they've used up a lot of credibility trying to get him. If you look at the past as any sort of guide, then they'll stick with him. They stuck with Carver. They stuck with McLaren. They stuck with Pardew long after the relationship with fans had kind of been frayed. And although he clung on and then eventually kind of got out on his own terms, it was his decision. The relationship with fans was broken, and it was at the point where sort of every defeat would kind of lead back to the same position. That is what they have done, and so there's no kind of reason to necessarily think it would be different, except that what we know about Mike Ashley is that it's about being in the Premier League. Having said that, the fact that the club have gone straight back up both times that they've gone down under his stewardship, maybe he thinks he's cracked that as well. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think there'd be any sort of quick knee-jerk reaction, because that's just not the way they've done it.
Mm-hmm. George, a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us as well, because I know you're extremely busy, but it was a delight to have you on the Newcastle Fan Show. George Colkin there from The Athletic, talking all about Newcastle. Really good to have him on. I know in the studio we had some questions for him and some good, insightful answers. That's what I like, Shaun. Someone's giving us the knowledge. I need the knowledge. Yeah, that was exactly it. Well, this is the Newcastle Fan Show, and you can still get involved, because next we will be talking a little bit more about that game and those comments from Jeremy Corbyn.
Join me, former professional goalkeeper Richard Lee.
And me, Patrick Christys, for Love Sport Breakfast from 6:30 every weekday. Darts is an individual sport, and there's no way you're keeping that crowd quiet.
No,
At the Ali Pally, the average number of pints drunk per person is 10. Now, out of the people that are there, some will be driving, which tells me that someone has sunk about 45 pints. Love Sport Breakfast every weekday from 6:30. Listen on digital radio, on the app, and watch the show live on our YouTube channel.
Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with the spokesman said.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact spokesmansaid.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through spokesmansaid.com, and you could too.
With spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
The spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Love sport.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Shaun Wade, Aaron Stokes from the Daily Star Sport and Matt Ketchell from BBC Match of the Day magazine. And as always, you can get involved. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. We want to hear what you have to say about Newcastle, not just this season, overall. And that is exactly what you've done, because we've had a call into the studio, this time from Dave. Dave, it's a real pleasure. This is the first caller we've had on the Newcastle Fan Show, so thank you so much for that. And I believe, if I'm right, Dave, forgive me if I'm wrong, that you've had a season ticket for near 30 years and you gave those season tickets up this year. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, it is. Last January I decided that I thought Rafa was going to go. I was on the 10-year deal and I had to get rid of my ticket by the end of March because they'd renew it otherwise. So I decided to get rid of it, and I thought if Rafa stays, I'll renew my ticket. But unfortunately, Rafa left, and I've got to say it's just been a massive wrench as well. Been going to the match for I've just turned 60. I've been going to the match for 50 odd years. Season ticket for 27 years. Had 2 season tickets, so it's been really, really, really difficult. And it coincided with me. I decided I had to do something about it, because really the reason I've given it up is that my money, I've only belatedly realised in the last 10 years, it's just been going straight into Mike Ashley's pockets. He hasn't invested in the club. In fact, he's going one step further. He's actually asset stripping the club. He's taking money out of it rather than investing in the team. So I got involved in the Magpie group as well. And on Saturday night I met with Jeremy Corbyn after the rally, which was really interesting, and really sort of pleased with what he's proposing for the Premier League and British football, sort of basically following the German model, if I'm not wrong.
David, thanks for calling in. It's Shaun here.
Hi, Shaun.
You know, absolutely devastating that you felt, after, over 50 years, like you say, of going to the games and holding a season ticket for 27 years. I believe you had 2 season tickets, wasn't it, for the 27 year?
I mean, I've got 4 boys, all of whom support Newcastle as well. And actually, they haven't been this year at all. They're good at one's 19 and they go up to 32, and there's 3 of them are absolutely mad keen on this, and they're gutted, as well. But they're sticking with it.
There's a lot of things going on, though. I mean, there's been problems with the land at Strawberry Place, where actually, it's like you say, his assets stripped that off, and he's basically he removed it from the club, and he said he was going to buy it through another company of his for $6 million. He then sold. The club never ever received that money, and then 6 years later, the club wrote that debt off. And then he went on to sell it for I think it was $9 million, which that person he sold it to was actually his son-in-law, Michael Murray.
That's right.
And then from there, they've put in this new planning permission, which is essentially landlocking St James's from extending the Gallagher end. And with that, if these plans come into force, then they are then in a position to sell that land for £60 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's also the thing that it's taken away from the heritage of the club, because essentially that was land that was set for development for St James's Park, and an absolutely devastating move. I know that...
but it's not just that, is it, Shaun? There's more than that. Ashley had the cheek to come out, or Newcastle had the cheek to come out to reply to Jeremy Corbyn's sort of message, and had the cheek to come out to say they haven't taken a penny out of the club. Basically, they were very careful with the way they worded it. But basically, you've talked about the land at Strawberry Place. You haven't mentioned the merchandising in the club shop. That's a Sports Direct shop.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. Nobody knows, but I would love to know how much money Newcastle get for that from sales. And then there's all the Sports Direct advertising. That's a big one for me. The Sports Direct advertising must be hundreds of millions of pounds.
Definitely.
For 10 years, he's paid nothing to Newcastle United for that advertising, that horrible advertising, which is all over the stadium, absolutely everywhere. I read somewhere that there are 45 different Sports Direct signs in the ground. Now, I'd love somebody to come up with a figure for how much he should have paid over the last 10 years. They've said that they paid $1 million for the season before last and $2 million last year. Because nobody's seen the accounts, then we can't verify that. So basically, as far as we, the fans, are concerned, he has taken that money out of the club. And that's why, as a fan, I cannot give him my money. And it really, really hurts. On Sunday, I didn't go to the match, and I was gutted. I watched the highlights, I watched bits of it on the TV, seeing Matty Longstaff score that goal, it's absolutely fantastic. But then you've got another worry. People are going on about Shaun and Matty Longstaff. I know what he'll do. If those two continue at this rate and
he's going to sell them, isn't he?
Yeah. He's going to sell them, and that'll be gutting as well. Local lads coming through, and he's not interested in the club. And the point that Corbyn was making was actually, the club is more than a business. It's about the community, and he's ripping the heart out of Newcastle for people like myself.
Everybody. He's tearing the heart and the soul out of the community, David. It's
and the other one is I'm really worried. I'm concerned because I'm boycotting, and I'm trying to encourage other people to boycott. But we're in a dilemma because actually, I had my two older lads were brought up during the Keegan era. My eldest lad, his first match was a 7-1 against Leicester. He's 4 years old, and so the two older ones went to all those matches. And the two younger ones are a bit hacked off because I haven't seen that level. But they were in the end of the Bobby Robson era. So I've had the pleasure of taking, pleasure inverted commas, of taking my lads to Newcastle, Now, I'm encouraging people to boycott. But have I got the right to ask other dads or mums to not take their sons and daughters to Newcastle? Do we want a city where actually the kids don't go and support Liverpool or Man United or Chelsea or whoever the flavour of the moment is? And it's a really difficult one. I don't think I've got the right to do that.
Dave, I think you've exactly got the right. You're a paying punter. You've been there for near 30 years. If that's what you feel as a supporter, and I stand with you, then I think you've got your full right to do it. Especially, your sons being there for those years. You want to see them. I hope that there is a case where you can go back. I'm certainly sure now it probably won't be till Ashley is out. Dave, thank you so much for calling us tonight. Hopefully, you'll become a regular caller because I feel like we could really talk to you for a lot longer. And it's so interesting to hear someone who has been up there supporting the club for so long. But as I said, you can call into the studio tonight. It was a delight to talk to Dave. Well, we've had another caller into the studio, this time from Adam. Adam, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time this evening. I know you want to talk about the club and Steve Bruce a little bit, don't you?
Hi, how are you doing, lads? All right?
Yeah, good, thanks,
all
Adam.
Good.
Hello, Ketch. All right, mate, it's Parker.
Parker, long time no speak.
Hello, mate. It's been a while. You keeping all right?
Yeah, I think it was Brighton away I last saw you at.
Quite possibly, aye.
Have you
yes,
boycotted as well?
I have. You have, yes, mate. I cannot do it anymore. I cannot. I just cannot put my money into his pocket when we're not getting anything back. It's depressing. It breaks me heart. Ketch, you know, when you and me used to sit together up at the top of the Millburn. We were there when the good times were there, and they're few and far between. I mean, games like we had on Sunday, yes, it was good and it was brilliant for the young lads, the Longstaffs, but we don't see it too often anymore. Do you know what I mean? And gone are the days where you actually went to the match and looked forward to possibly getting a result.
How did you feel on Sunday then, not being there to see Matty Longstaff rasp into the Gallagher?
It was one of those things. I spoke to my dad afterwards. He hasn't boycotted. He's still going. And he said, you know, is it not games like this where you wish you were there? And it is true. But I believe in the long run, not being there has more benefit. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I'm not one of these fans who don't want to see us do well. I mean, obviously, that hasn't changed. The passion's not gone away at all. But he's just not running the club the way it should be. And if I can do my little bit, then rightly or wrongly, I'm going to do it.
Have you done anything specific with the money that you've been saving? I've been encouraging people to go to non-league. There's such a fantastic non-league scene up in the northeast, and also you could do things like invest in the food bank. Have you done anything specific with the money you save on your season ticket?
I've gone to see concert a few times, which is now my local team, unfortunately. But it's just a case of going to watch the football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, I mean, it's a lot of money to save, and believe me, the wife's happy I'm not spending it every month.
Adam, can I ask, is there a case where you will make it back? You know, what will see you stop your boycott? You know, is it obviously when Mike Ashley leaves,
gone.
or just when he's gone now? You will not return until Mike Ashley goes?
No, not at all. It doesn't matter to me if we get Pep Guardiola and we qualify for the Champions League. But as daft as that might sound, after supporting the club home and away for nigh on 30 years, I don't think he deserves any more of my money, which I could understand if the fans are paying their money and we were getting something out of it. I mean, the ground's a mess. The money doesn't get invested anywhere other than failing businesses, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Adam, also, you tweeted, didn't you? You said, you know, looking at those Man United and Spurs results, did Steve Bruce get lucky with the lads stepping up, or was it a tactical masterclass, or were the results against Leicester and Brighton, was that, you know, really Newcastle's level this season? Where do you stand on that? Your own question that you did tweet in.
I probably shouldn't have used the word masterclass maybe when it comes to Steve Bruce. Maybe there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek there, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, you all watched the game Sunday. The Longstaffs, they commanded that midfield. They really did make the game what it was. I'm not going to give Steve Bruce any praise. I'm also not going to dig the guy out. At the end of the day, it's not his fault that he's in the job. He's had the neck to take it on. It's hard to say. I mean, it's completely. You go from one weekend to the other, getting destroyed by Leicester. 1 week to beating, yes, we'll say a poor Man U side, but we did beat them. I honestly don't know, is the honest answer to that question. I haven't seen enough to make my mind up properly on it.
The thing is that when you look at Steve Bruce and when Mike Ashley decided that he wasn't going to renew Rafa's contract, who else was going to step in? You know, at the end of the day, like, he went around the houses, didn't he, trying to get other people in. I think there was talk of Gerrard and stuff and things. He was trying to nab from Rangers, and you know, there was stuff like that. So I don't think Mike Ashley had very a great deal of choice, did he really, other than to go with Steve Bruce?
I mean, who's going to want to come and work for him, to be quite honest, if you've got any nous, or if you're a young manager trying to make a name for yourself? It's not worth coming to Newcastle, because you do badly, and I'm including this, the crowd are going to be on your back, and it's not going to be particularly comfortable. And your hands are tied behind your back, unfortunately, when it comes to I was going to say the board, but we haven't got a board. We'll say Mike Ashley and his mates.
The thing is,
which is what it comes down to.
Even Shearer sort of said to Steve Bruce, didn't he, like, don't take the job, and
don't do it.
Yeah. So
I dare say most of Steve Bruce's family said the same to him. He probably thought it himself. But I mean, I can understand in his head he thought, if I do this right and it works, I'm going to be a hero in my own city. Maybe there's no one other than him has seen that coming. I think we all could have predicted the way it was going to go. I mean, we're in for a fight this season, we all know it. Whether he's got the fight, whether he can get the players to knuckle down and fight for him. maybe past January, see what we've got after January, to be honest, because like we were saying before, the likes of Shaun and the Longstaffs, if they're still playing well up to that time, they're going to be wanted men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully we'll see you back at the club at a game once more, Farker, because you know, you're a lifelong fan and people shouldn't have to jack in. So good to hear from you. And,
it hasn't been an easy decision, Ketch, but I'm glad I've done it. But we'll catch up at the game sometimes, mate. I'll drop you a message.
Okay.
But cheers for having us on,
Cheers,
lads.
Adam. Adam, always a pleasure. You can call us in any time. It's always good to speak to you. There you go, Adam. We've had some callers into the studio. We've gone off script. We've gone off order. But really delighted to speak to Dave and Adam. Really two good callers. Next, though, we will look at those comments from Jeremy Corbyn.
Monday is a truly awful way to spend 1/7 of your life, I guarantee it.
Discussion about as responsible as a Derby County team night out. Love Sport Breakfast. Every weekday morning from 6:30.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that a spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774 over the 18-month contract. A nice little result, if I say so myself, but it was only due to a spokesman said on his brilliant advice that I was able to do a deal for the new contract.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
This is Love Sport.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Shaun Wade, Aaron Stokes from the Daily Star Sport and Matt Ketchell from BBC Match of the Day magazine. And you have been joining us and you still can. You can tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. It was so insightful then just to speak to Dave and Adam, even if it was such a short time, just hearing what the fans had to say this season so far, not going anymore, season tickets for 27 years, absolutely incredible stuff, all down to Mike Ashley. That's what we're talking about right here on Love Sport, because this week Jeremy Corbyn came out, he mentioned the club, the fans should have shares in the club, and I've got to admit, everyone is quite annoyed that he had to come out and say this, and that he was using Newcastle, because it all feels like he has another agenda, all a bit of a publicity stunt. Ketch, would you go along and agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit like Colleen and Rebecca Vardy, this, isn't it?
Very topical, Ketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, who
but
leaks
it's
what?
fascinating because the club never release official statements. They're renowned. You know, all that no comment stuff that we had in the summer. They never release statements. And Ashley's had a big nibble. And I think Jeremy Corbyn will be delighted with the response. And it's pretty hilarious. I think it shows he's massively rattled. And the club hitting back, saying, you know, accusing Corbyn of having damaging and misinformed opinions. Corbyn said Mike Ashley's a bad owner. Mike Ashley said himself he's a bad owner to Martin Samuel when he did a Daily Mail interview.
Said he shouldn't own a football club, didn't he?
And Corbyn said that Mike Ashley puts his business interests first. He does. And he said that he marginalises supporters. I'm a supporter. I feel marginalised. So I agree with everything Jeremy Corbyn's had to say. And it's been very interesting to see an official statement come out. It took me by surprise.
Aaron, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually expect the club to reply. We never hear from them, you know. I think, you know, Lee Charnley in the past has said, you know, that the club want to be more open with the fans, but it's all just sort of broken promises, you know. The last time that the fans sort of heard from Ashley directly was that sort of that massive Daily Mail like extravaganza in the summer where he sort of hit back at Rafa. So, I mean, it was welcome, but like Ketch touched on, it's just so disingenuous because Mike actually, whereas he might not be taking actual money out of the club, apart from, the loans that he's repaying, the money that he's siphoning from, the club shop that's going to Sports Direct and the season tickets and everything like that, it's not as if he's doing this off his own back and all this. The account might not show it on the face of it, but when you dig deeper, he is taking money out the club in other ways. So, I mean, it's always good to hear from the club, but, I mean, the statement itself was... I just thought, like Ketch says, you can tell that they are very, very rattled by it.
Would you? So you're all agreement in what Jeremy Corbyn had to say about the club? Glad he done it. Glad he sort of, I don't want to say shined it on Newcastle, because we know of the mess and what's going on with Ashley. But obviously now it feels like more and more people are talking about, and it was Newcastle, the club he chose to use. Aaron, you want to get in?
I mean, this is obviously the Corbyn thing sort of put it into a national spotlight. But Chi Onrua, who is the Newcastle Central MP for Labour, has been trying to get an answer out of Ashley for months. She's spoke about it in the House of Parliament, and she's trying to, really get more transparency. So I think, if anything, this is just because it's Corbyn, it's on sort of a national scale now, and more people are going to have heard about it because it's obviously the Labour leader that's doing it. So.
What was good with what I thought with Jeremy was he spent time with the fans. I mean, there was people there from the Newcastle United Supporters Trust that he spent time talking to them about things. Kevin Miles was there from the FSA. There was members from the Magpie group that were there talking and support our tune and stuff. So he really engaged with them. It wasn't, he hasn't just splurted out. He's took on a lot of what's been said to him, and obviously working with Chi and Ian Lavery, Ian Means, who are all MPs around that area, and they know the problems firsthand, because obviously, it's having a massive effect. What Mike actually doesn't seem to understand is that what he's doing, he is ripping the heart and the soul out of the community. There's people that are going to work. Like Mike actually famously said, didn't he, in his exclusive, that it was a bad day when he heard the Sunderland fans chanting his name and stuff and things like that. There's only one Mike Ashley and stuff, and he thought, oh, this is bad, this Michael. What he doesn't understand is that the people
Michael.
Michael, you twat. But what people don't understand is, he said, what people don't understand, what Mike actually doesn't understand is that there's people up there that are going to work, and they're working in factories alongside people from Sunderland and Sunderland supporters, and they're getting it in the neck all the time. It's a constant sort of kicking. It's not just one game where a bit of chanting goes on. It's every day of the week. And with what he's doing at the club, with all of his assets stripping, and he's taking all this money out and things, like he said in his statement there, this recent statement, that he's never took a penny out in interest being the key word here.
It's so interesting you say that, because obviously, taking the time to speak to different people on the trust and supporters and get a sense of the community and what it means. But everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people down south who maybe don't support Newcastle, saying this is purely publicity for Corbyn. He's trying to get more votes. He's looking what he does. He doesn't really care about Newcastle. I know the things he's saying you agree with, but where do you fall on it? Because down south, it just feels like Corbyn, he knows what he's doing there. There is an agenda, and he's just using Newcastle for his own benefit.
Well, it's easy point, isn't it, to go after Mike Ashley? But any negative publicity, as far as Newcastle fans, for Mike Ashley is welcome, because we want to highlight how bad he's been for us. We want to highlight the 12 years of neglect, and Ashley's kind of exposed himself as being, someone who's stripping assets. I think he's come off badly. If anything, it's shone light on all the negative things that he does on the club. We know about the advertising that he doesn't pay for. We know about the club shop money that's going to Sports Direct. We know that he's selling land out the back. That's what we know. Think about what we don't know. Rangers had this problem with Mike Ashley, and there was, I think it was the Sons of Struth group of Rangers fans who came together and really dug deep into their accounts and found out what he was up to. And it was terrible, the stuff he had. He had all these in perpetuity contracts for 10 years. Everything was being siphoned. It's very, very clever. It's basically kind of like money laundering, the way he goes about it. So this is what we know. We know about the advertising, the club shop. What we don't know is the scary thing. And he's going to have his hands even deeper into the club, and that's the scary thing. And we'll only really learn about how bad it is until he leaves.
On Ketch's point there, I mean, when he was at Rangers, he only owned I think it was 1%, and that he was doing that there. When he's having full control of Newcastle, it is probably scary to think what he's doing. Just touching on the Corbyn thing, I mean, yes, it is obviously easy political points to to say I'm going to go after football owners and make clubs far known, because obviously it is going to get people on side. But this is sort of been Corbyn's mantra in the past, that he would go after sort of like big business owners and 0-hour contracts. So maybe this is just tied in nicely, that he's going to target Mike Ashley, one, affect his Sports Direct business, and then he's also going to maybe affect his Newcastle business. But I do get the point that the cynic in me is saying that it might just be sort of a political play. But I mean, it's like Ketch said, it's if any negative,
either way it highlights it.
Yeah, any negative publicity to Ashley is good for us, whether it's genuine or whether
No,
it's
it was good to hear Ketch say that. It was good points from you all. Unbelievably, this is the end of the Newcastle Fan Show. The hour's absolutely flown by. We've talked to Dave, we've talked to Adam, we talked to George Corkin from The Athletic. It's been an absolute packed show. More importantly, we spoke about the fantastic victory, beating Man United on the weekend 1-0. Hopefully it can kickstart things. We'll be back next week, and you can join the Newcastle Fan Show every Wednesday, 7 to 8, and you can get involved. Up next, though, it's not Newcastle, but it is Leyton Orient.
Love Sport.